Okay, YouTube friends everywhere. Thanks for hanging out with this episode of North Georgia GMRS, our regional net. We've got some wonky technical issues that we're fighting through this evening, but um, hopefully that'll all work out. My screens are all cattywampus, and when the screens are wampus and catty, that presents a problem. So let me see if I can fix this quickly. I didn't need that. Let's see. Okay, that should be fine. We move that down there like that. This guy needs to come down here because I rely on that heavily. That's fine right where it's at. Here's my script. And, alright, put that over in the corner. Okay, the lighting again is a little bit weird. I haven't figured out how to fix this with the windows and the drapes open and, that backlight that comes in. But it's too warm in the studio to not have these windows open. So it just has to be this way, I think, for the short term until we decide to finally break down and turn air conditioning on here at the place. So we're late getting started by about 2 minutes, so let me go ahead and jump on the air and get this thing going. Let's see, let's get to the top of the script. There it is. Here we go. Good evening and welcome to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. I'll be working off the flagship 675 repeater this evening, and we are linked in with the following repeaters: Somerville, Lookout Mountain, Noonan, McDonough, Columbus, Crawford, Moreland, Zebulon, and the VoIP server Zello. Tonight our RF coverage is approximately 31,000 square miles, give or take, and it is worldwide when you consider the possibility of connections by way of VoIP. This net takes place every Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. I'd like to thank everyone who's made the North Georgia GMRS the most expansive and active GMRS network in the country. Your net control tonight is Atlanta 946, WQYR 514. My name is Justin, and I am located at Studio B here in Woodstock, Georgia. On the net, you can talk about your day's activities, radio equipment, or anything you think we'd like to hear about. This is a family-based network, so we encourage you to get your family involved. Once the floor is open, it is permissible to address other members of the net by their name or tactical unit number. Your FCC call sign is only required when you sign in and sign out of the net. When signing in, please speak slowly and clearly as you give your call sign, your tactical unit number, your name, and your location. Those 4 things are what I need. Before I take check-ins, let me go ahead and go through our list of early check-ins. Let me take a break. We'll come right back and do that. Okay, for our early bird check-ins, we had Chattanooga 58, Bill in Chattanooga. We also have Atlanta 403, Bobby in White County. Bobby is in and out with us this evening. Bobby is monitoring the live stream, and he's going to let me know if it falls down, as it sometimes does. And let's see, I have a banner up there that's giving me an alert that I can't read from here. Bobby, are we good? Well, yeah, send me a text if there's an issue with the live stream, but from what I can see, it looks like it's playing. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 516, Ray in Canton. Also, I have Atlanta 549, Aiden in Milton. Aiden is in and out with us this evening, so thank you, Aiden, for checking in. It's great to hear from you. Atlanta 402, Todd incoming. Todd is also in and out with us this evening, but Todd, thanks for the check-in. It's great to hear from you. We have Atlanta 102, Mike, right here in Woodstock. Mike is in and out with us this evening. Busy stuff going on, and it's that kind of a night. If I weren't here on the radio, I'd probably be tinkering with something as well. Atlanta 65, Andy in Ooltewah. I'm sorry, that's Chattanooga 65, Andy in Ooltewah. I forgot to put the chat in there, Andy, and didn't realize that was what that was until I saw the Ooltewah. But thanks, Andy, for checking in and out this evening. It's great to hear from you. Atlanta 417, William in Auburn is in and out with us this evening. Thank you, William. Atlanta 434, Ron incoming, is also in and out with us this evening. Thanks, Ron. It's great to hear from you. We have McDonough 22, Tim in Stockbridge, wants to talk about life-changing technology tonight. We also have Atlanta 780, Houston in Powder Springs. We have Noonan 29, Marty in Tyrone, going to the high power mode to cut through those vegetative interference objects. And we have Atlanta 180, Mike in Cherry Log, enjoying a beverage this evening. It's great to hear from you, Mike. Thank you for checking in and out with us. We also have Atlanta 253, Donald in Blairsville. Donald, I'm sure, is in the process of either getting into hot water or looking for it. We'll talk with Donald here in just a little bit. We have Atlanta 261, Scott in Holly Springs. Thank you for checking in tonight, Scott. We have Atlanta 104, Lynn in Buford. Lynn, it's great to hear from you. Appreciate you checking in tonight. We have Atlanta 313, Jason in Rome. Good signal that second time around, Jason, so we're looking forward to chatting with you here in a little bit. We have Chattanooga 55, Doug in Chattanooga, in and out with us this evening. Thanks, Doug, for checking in. It's great to hear from you. We have Atlanta 138, Robert in Auburn at band practice. We might hear from Robert later. We'll see how it goes. Let me break real quick. Okay, we also have Atlanta 172, Greg in Bremen, in and out with us this evening. Thanks, Greg, for checking in. I appreciate you sticking around and listening to the net. We have Atlanta 721, David in Rockmart. Thanks, David, for checking in. I'm looking forward to talking with you. And we have Atlanta 442, Craig in Ackworth is tinkering in the garage tonight. So he's probably either working on cars, motorcycles, radios, or the Commodore computer, or maybe all of the above. So it's hard to say for sure what Craig's got going on, but he's busy tonight. So he's in and out, but he's going to monitor and listen in. So thanks, Craig, for hanging out with us and letting us spend some time in your garage. That brings me to the end of my list. So let's go real quickly through our on-air check-in process, and then we get the show on the road. So at this time, let me find that part of my script so I say it the right way. I will take check-ins. Any VoIP check-ins, please call Net Control now. Zello and VoIP check-ins only, please. Make a nice big space here for the Zello check-ins. Okay, a lot of echo in that, and the audio that I had was inaudible. I couldn't tell what that was. I think I might have heard Atlanta 356, but I'm not even sure about that. And looking at the membership roster, that's not even a valid number. So what I heard doesn't work. Let's try that VoIP check-in one more time, please. Okay, Alabama check-in. I wasn't able to pull that out. I just couldn't hear it well enough. There's just enough noise in there that I can't pull it out. It seems like I talked to you last week. I'm looking at last week's log as we speak to see if I can find you in there. And I don't see you right off the bat. So with that, I'm going to apologize and suggest that you try to get to a better location and try that again. We're not hearing anybody attempt to check in on Zello, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. And at this time, we're going to take check-ins from any guests, visitors, new users, anyone who is not a member of North Georgia GMRS but would like to check in, and any youth members that would like to check in. Net Control standing by. And Alabama, if you want to try it one more time, I'm game. Let's see if we can pull you in here.
Justin, it was Alabama to 0. He was on Zello, and he doubled with you. That's the reason you didn't hear him.
Alabama 2-0. Well, appreciate that, Tim. I I did hear an RF check-in as well, so maybe that was it coming through on after Zello coming back over the radio. So Alabama 20. Let me see if I can find that and get him in the log. That looks like that's Joshua Wyatt. And all right, we've got you in the log here, Josh, and we'll definitely see if we can pull you in here in a little bit.
Josh, Oatsville, Alabama.
All right, net control standing by for new members, visitors, guests, and youth members. All right, I think I heard Atlanta 560, and I believe that is McCoy from Cedartown. I'm not entirely sure that's what I heard, but let's see if McCoy will come back and confirm that for me.
This is Atlanta 560 McCoy. Heard.
Okay, Atlanta 560 McCoy from Cedartown. I've got you in the log. Thank you, McCoy, for checking in this evening. And all right then. So let's go ahead and open up check-ins to flagship 675 machine. Anybody that wants to check in over the flagship 675 repeater, please call net control now. Okay, off in the distance and through the noise, I heard Atlanta 286 Lynn in Murrayville. Lynn, I've got you in the log. I'm going to go ahead and show you as in and out. I'm just guessing that's what you want to do. And Lynn, did you want to check CV in as well?
Yes, Atlanta 285 is also in and out tonight. Thank you, Justin.
Okay, Lynn, I've got CV in the log as well. Any other flagship repeater check-ins, please call net control now. I think I heard Mike in Copper Hill, but I'm not sure where to go with that. It almost sounded like a double in there, but I'm not quite sure that's the truth. So, station, please come back with your tactical ID number if you can.
Yeah, no problem, net control. This is WRME 413, Atlanta 699, Mike in Sugar Hill.
This is WRMG 494, Atlanta 292, Derek in Rockmart, checking in and checking out.
This is WRCV 257, Atlanta 76, David in Duluth, Georgia, in and checking out. Net control. Net control, please check in Atlanta 93, WRFW 780. This is Brian over in Marietta, and
I'll be sticking around listening.
Okay, at this time, Net Control is going to go ahead and acknowledge Atlanta 699, Mike in Sugar Hill. I think there might have been a double with you there, Mike, because that second time around you sounded very, very good. We also have Atlanta 292, Derek in Rockmart, checking in and out. Thank you, Derek, for checking in with us this evening. It's great to hear from you. We have Atlanta 76, David in Duluth, checking in and out. Appreciate that check-in, David. It's great to hear from you as well. And we have Atlanta 93, Brian in Marietta. Brian, you're sounding good into the machine tonight. I've got you in log as in and out. And wanted to go back and see Mike, Atlanta 699. Did you want to check Beth in as well?
That is affirmative, Net Control. Atlanta 698 is also checking in this evening.
All right, Mike, I've got Atlanta 698, Beth in Sugar Hill in the log as well. Do we have any additional flagship check-ins? In fact, let's go ahead and open up to any repeater anywhere. Anyone that would like to check into the North Georgia GMRS linked network, if you're able to hear one of our machines, we'd love to hear from you. Net Control standing by. All right, I think we had two stations in there, and I didn't hear either one. Did anybody get a copy on either one of those check-ins?
Negative, Net Control.
Okay, so I think there were two stations that just tried to check in, and weak signals on both. One of them might have been Atlanta 91. If that is correct, please acknowledge.
Atlanta 191.
Okay, Atlanta 191. That is, I believe, Jerry in Beaufort.
That's right, Jerry.
Okay, I've got you in here, Jerry. Atlanta 191, I've got you in the log. It's a tough copy on you, but I think we can get her done. Other station, I think I heard another station in there. You want to give it a try? Okay, the other station, we're just not able to hold the repeater, completely dropping out. Seems like when the carrier is there, there is a little white noise in there and no audio. So I don't know if you want to try that again, but as it is, we're not able to copy. Any other stations wishing to check in to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net, any repeater, anywhere, please call Net Control now.
This is around 948 WRAR 430. I didn't know if you heard me the first time, Justin. I can check in now.
All right, Atlanta 948, Gary in Woodstock. I didn't hear you the first time, but I got you now, so thank you for checking in with us this evening, Gary. I think at this time we'll go ahead and get things started, and anybody that hadn't had the opportunity to check in, we'll definitely be taking check-ins again before we close. We don't want to miss anyone. And for the folks that checked in and out, if you find that there's a point at which you'd like to jump in here, please feel free to make that attempt. I will endeavor to make some holes for that purpose along the way. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and go to the top. And let's see, press that button over there. We have Chattanooga 58, Bill in Chattanooga. Bill, did you stick around with us? And what do you have in the way of life-changing technology that you'd like to talk about? You know, one of the things that inspired this, at least with me, was just simply the fact that I had a question, and the question was, who owns this piece of property that's not being maintained? It looked terrible. I think it's a bad reflection on the neighborhood, even though it's not really a part of the neighborhood. It sits right in front of the neighborhood, and so I've mowed that several times, and I've damaged my mower in the process of mowing it. And so I've kind of decided I'm not going to tear up my equipment to take care of somebody else's property. They need to do it themselves. So I've been calling around and trying to find who owns that property. There's a real estate sign on it, and all I've been able to do is leave messages, and no one's ever called me back. And so, I've been trying to figure out who the property owner is, and it turns out there's a page that you can go to get that information. It's a county tax assessor. It's different in every county, I suppose. It used to be that information was freely available here in Cherokee County. It now requires a $10 fee or subscription to acquire, I think, up to 5 different listings. But I was able to get information about the property owner, and I had intended to call the property owner to ask them to do some maintenance on the property, to mow it, or hire it mowed, or something to make it look better than it did. But strangely enough, this week the county showed up and they took care of it. So I'm happy. It's done. But, I don't know how you would go about doing that before, the everyday application of the internet to our lives. I remember, 30 years ago, back when I was a truck driver, we didn't have GPS and Google Maps to find where places were. I would call a receiver, and I would get directions from them over the phone. Take highway such and such to exit such and such, and go 4 miles and turn left at such and such, and look for us on the right about 3/4 of a mile down the way. Whatever it would be, that was, and I would have a list of those directions. I had a book that I kept in the truck, and I used that very, very frequently, especially when I went to the same places over and over again, because it was good information. And then eventually I put that into a spreadsheet, and I shared that with other people, and including our dispatchers, so that they could expedite giving directions. But in those days, that's how it was done. It was call the people that you're delivering to and ask them how to get there. Nowadays, you don't have to call them. In fact, they don't really even want to hear from you. They didn't want to then either. But nowadays, you can just Google the address, and it is 99.9% accurate. So it's a different world entirely. And there are a number of other things in terms of technology that have really changed the way that we go about our daily lives. The information that's available on our cell phones in our pockets is just tremendous. And so that's what I wanted to talk about this evening. So Chattanooga 5-8, Bill in Chattanooga, do you have any comments with regards to life-changing technology? All right. Well, Bill wanted to be the first one checked in tonight, but Bill has a short attention span if things don't have rocket motors attached to them. So I'm going to go ahead and show Bill as in and out this evening, and we're going to go ahead and move right along to another short attention span. We have Atlanta 403, Bobby in White County. I'm just kidding. Bobby's been a tremendous help to me along the way. He always lets me know whenever there's an interruption in our YouTube live stream. He does that for 2 reasons. One, it helps me out. Because I can't tell. I can't monitor that continuously through the net. And so if it freezes up, there's not a good way for me to know that. And the other reason he does that is because that's how he watches the net most of the time. So he's in the marginal coverage area, and so he's going to use the live stream to follow along on the net. And he may or may not try to check in on Zello at some point along the way, but he can't seem to get here through RF. So that brings me next to Atlanta 516, Ray in Canton. I'm sure Ray has some interesting perspectives with regards to life-changing technology, in particular GPS, as having been in the area for only about 2 months. I'm sure Ray has depended heavily on GPS to find his way around. I heard of his adventures today looking for a hardware store to find a particular pair of screws. Ray, were you able to utilize that life-changing technology?
Roger, Justin. Yes, I've been here just over 2 months, and what I normally do is I go out, I just make left and right turns, and wherever I wind up, I sit down and I say, okay, now that I made all these left and right turns, I have no idea where I am. Let me see if the GPS will get me home. And usually it does. You know, it might take me the long way around. I've noticed a lot of the roads here circle around, and, well, at least it works.
Oh yeah, I tell you, we relied so heavily on, and still do, so heavily on GPS, and it can be frustrating. I recall a time we were over in the Ackworth area on 92, there by 75, and we we had plugged in an address in the phone's GPS, and we knew it was just on the other side of 75, but we didn't know where at. And so the GPS had us get on 75 and go north. So we're there at exit 277, Highway 92 and 75. Following the instructions of the GPS, it has us get on 75 and go north one exit. So we went up and we got off at exit 278. It has us come off and go underneath and then get back on the highway and go south one exit. And then the place that we were looking for was just, I mean, not even 2 blocks away. Once we got back on Highway 92, that whole trip up and down 75 was completely unnecessary. But for whatever reason, the GPS thought that we had to do that in order to get where we were going, and that's not the only time that I've had stupid little things like that happen with the GPS. But nonetheless, I would be so lost here in Georgia without it. So I could just imagine. And as you drive around more and more, Ray, you'll get more comfortable and familiar with the territory. And as you've already figured out, there are no straight roads here. You know, we often complained in Indiana. You could be driving on a road, and you could be headed due north on this road. And at one point, this road is called, I can't remember the names of the roads, Hillegas. The name of the road is Hillegas. And as you're driving along, the road changes names to, it changes in 3 different places. I can't remember the other 2 names. But depending on where you get onto that road at, depends on what its name is. Here, it's even more challenging because in Fort Wayne, Hillegas was a straight road from one end of the county to the other. There were no turns, no curves. There were a couple of hills, but regardless of what it was called, it was the same straight road from end to end. Here, you get on a road, and it changes names, and it changes direction, and it winds, and it twists, and you know. So when you get on that road at one point and you get off of it somewhere else and it's got a different name, very often when you're trying to look for the road that you got on so that you can come back, well, the part that you're on now has a different name, and it goes in a different direction. So it can be very, very confusing. And don't think for a minute that I'm complaining. It's just an added challenge because as frustrating as it can be to not have roads laid out in a grid pattern like they are in Indiana, they're much more interesting and much better scenery to drive on around here than there. So good stuff, Ray, and glad to hear. I think I did hear that you found the hardware you were looking for.
Hey, Roger, Justin. Yeah, I found an Ace Hardware off of Route 20, which is 19 or off the 575. They had a couple aisles of all different types of hardware. I found what I needed, but I checked every drawer out just to see all that nice goodies.
Yes, indeed. And you know, when when we lived in Fort Wayne, we have a lot of do-it-best hardware stores up there, which is, you know, almost the same as an Ace. They're a little bit different. They're all independently owned, but they're all served by Hardware Wholesalers Incorporated, and so they have a lot of consistency in their products, despite the fact that they're independently owned. So different hardware stores might have different specialties. You might have a do-it-best hardware that specializes in yard equipment and gardening. You might have another one that specializes in construction and home building and that kind of thing. They all have a lot of common, you know, wrenches and hammers and screwdrivers and nuts and bolts and all the basic stuff is all there, but they'll have different kind of specialties. There was one in particular that had eventually they had retired and gone out of business. Brigham and Lumber was a do-it-best, and they had a massive, must have had 40 or 50 acres of nursery. So if you needed trees or shrubs or plants or you know, they had a lot of greenhouse there too, so you could get you know, flowers and that sort of thing. It was a very, very large facility, and it's all gone now. The buildings are still there. The greenhouses are gone. All that stuff has become farmland, and the building part of that property is a large construction company now. So, yeah, that hardware stores can be a real gem. I would have thought there would have been one somewhere on Riverstone Parkway, but I don't know. I don't get up that way very much. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 549, Aiden in Milton. Aiden was in and out with us tonight, as well as the next several. Let's go through those here real quick. We have Atlanta 402, Todd, incoming, in and out tonight. Thank you, Todd. We have Atlanta 102, Mike in Woodstock, in and out. Thank you, Mike. We have Chattanooga 65, Andy in Ooltewah, in and out tonight. Thank you, Andy, for checking in and out with us this evening. We have Atlanta 417, William in Auburn, in and out. Thank you, William. I'm glad to hear from you. We have Atlanta 434, Ron incoming, also in and out. And that brings me next to McDonough 22, Tim in Stockbridge. Tim, can you tell me about any life-changing technology that you've experienced along the way?
Well, Justin, not something that I have necessarily experienced, but it's something that is on the horizon. It's a new technology that has the potential to change just about every aspect, or at least many aspects of our lives and the way that we do business. Anyone who has, you know, encountered or had anything to do with cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin has heard of a technology called blockchain. Well, blockchain has the potential to change the way we do business, all of our financial transactions, just about everything. We all know that when we go to a service station and use our credit card or a store, there's a 6% or 7% upcharge just for the use of that credit card. Blockchain is going to change that, and is going to either wipe out that entire fee or be 1/100th of the cost for that transaction of what we currently see using credit cards and stuff. But it's going to be more secure. It's going to be almost unhackable. It's going to be decentralized. I'm looking at a list online right now of 50 major companies that are now using or in the process of beginning to use blockchain technology. HSBC, Visa, Ford Motor Company, Walmart, Pfizer, Siemens, Shell Motors, Shell Oil Company, Coldwell Banker, and it goes on and on. It's coming, and it will be here over the next probably 5 to 10 years. We will be using blockchain for all of our transactions almost exclusively, at least in what I'm seeing that into Google, and you will see things that is going to surprise you there, Roger.
Well, Tim, I'll tell you, I've been fascinated by what I've heard of cryptocurrencies so far. I haven't invested in any of it. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do think that this is a fascinating piece of technology. But I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I don't understand how this Bitcoin stuff works. I don't understand the mining process. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But I can tell you for sure, the mechanisms that we have in play today don't work. It's a broken system. And when someone is in possession of financial data, and that information can be stolen from them and used to open an account in someone else's name, and then that becomes that other person's burden. If your financial security data is stolen from you, and that becomes your burden to prove that you're not the person that did that, that's wrong on a lot of levels. The burden of proof needs to be on the people who are issuing credit, that it was you that sought out and applied for that credit, or that you that made that charge, or what have you. And it's not. So oftentimes they just, hey, it was your social security number, so it's your problem. And that's got to be stopped. That's got to be changed, and it needs to be not the individual's problem, but it needs to be the lender's problem, in terms of who's responsible for that transaction. A 947 and I have our credit bureau accounts locked in all three of the reporting agencies. And that was a pain years ago, because we had to pay a fee every time we wanted to unblock that. If we wanted to make a change, if we wanted to buy a vehicle, if we wanted to open a credit card, no matter what we had to do. And in some cases it's convenient, because they pressure you at the store. Hey, if you open a card, you can get 10% off. Well, I can't open the card because it's locked. Well, you can just send them a text and you can get it now. Nope, you can't do that. You cannot do that on my accounts. You have to have a PIN number. I don't have those numbers memorized, and I do not carry them with me. So in order for me to unlock the account, I've got to be able to come back here and get those numbers. And so that's just a level of protection that we have to keep us from doing stupid things. Let me break. But this sounds like something that could be a fix for a lot of those things. And if that's indeed the case, I would very much like to see the credit bureau process done away with. It's a broken system, and it deserves to be eliminated. All of the credit bureaus have leaked data, and it's at the point now where there have been so many data breaches that none of the credit bureaus are legally even allowed to charge us to lock and unlock our accounts. So I don't know where they make their money, but I do know that it's a broken system, and I'm offended by the very nature of their existence. So that's a hot button issue for me. I would love to see something like blockchain come and break up the big three financial security bureaus that are in this country operating. They don't do that in other countries, and I think there's a good reason to eliminate them here. So thanks for that, Tim. That's a great one I hadn't considered at all. Cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. Probably worth spending some time doing a little research. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 780, Houston, and Powder Springs. Houston, can you tell me about any life-changing technology that you've experienced? Atlanta 780. Can somebody wake up Houston?
Houston may have a problem.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned. Hopefully all is well with he and Mona. I'm going to go ahead and show him as in and out at the moment, and assuming that he's got other things to tend to. So with that, we'll go ahead and move on to Noonan 29, Marty, and Tyrone. How about you, Marty? Any life-changing technologies you'd like to discuss?
Well, good evening, Justin, and the rest of the net. And that Houston pun was terrible. But it made me laugh. Life-changing technology. There's so many things that we've touched on a whole bunch of them. I think the biggest thing that's probably affected us all is the ever-shrinking world. And, of course, the Internet has made the world a much smaller place. And as a result, I'm not sure it's all for the good. I still like to think the majority of people are good in nature, but there's as the old saying goes, a few rotten apples will spoil the bunch. I think we're facing the reality of that crazy statement in and of itself these days. But as for life-changing technology, well, back when I was a kid, fire was invented, and then it was quickly followed up by the wheel and the garden hose. And the rest is history. I'm going to throw that out there because everything else I was thinking about already got said, and now I don't have anything left to say, which is almost unheard of for me because I'm certainly known for brevity. Back to net from me.
All right. Well, Marty, I really kind of thought that you would touch on, the miniaturization of electronics has brought to us some very affordable technologies that are life-changing in their very essence. For instance, the portable defibrillator. You see them everywhere now. 20, 30 years ago, a defibrillator was something that you would only find either at the hospital or in some ambulances. Many ambulances did not even carry them because they were just too expensive and too complicated for technicians to use in the field. Now they have gotten to the place where we have them. Well, we had them in the old office building. I'm assuming we'll have something similar in a new office building, where you go to the cabinet and you pull out this canvas bag, and you take that back to where the patient is at, and you open the Velcro closures on the bag, and there are these two pads that have an adhesive thing on them that you just peel off and you stick on their skin, and it shows you exactly where to place them, and then the machine does the rest. The machine will use those pads to detect the fibrillation of the heartbeat as it is happening, and then decide how to apply voltages to correct that rhythm. And so the machine is so very much more complicated than anything that the ambulances would have carried 30 years ago. Life-saving, life-changing technology because of the miniaturization and the economy of that miniaturization of electronics. And I'm sure, there's many other technologies that come into play too, pacemakers and lots of medical applications that have just come into commonality that we take for granted. So lots of stuff there, Marty, and I'm sure I'm missing many of them as well. So let's listen in and see what others have got for ideas to bring to us. That brings us next to Atlanta 180 Mike in Cherry Log, listening in with us this evening and enjoying a beverage. Thanks, Mike, for checking in and hanging out with us. Look forward to hearing you on the air later and perhaps tomorrow. Next on my list is Atlanta 253 Donald in Blairsville. Donald, do you have any comments with regard to life-changing technology? Donald may have been a Zello user. I didn't look when he checked in. I should pay more attention to that. But this should have been long enough for him to get it. Atlanta 253, Donald in Blairsville. Donald, do you have any comments for the net? All right, we're going to show Donald as in and out, and we're going to go ahead and move right along to next on the list is Atlanta. 261 Scott in Holly Springs. Scott, what do you have for us this evening for life-changing technology?
Perfect net control. I right on the hill. Two things. Of course, bio and chemicals, so forth. But life-changing, as far as the last couple months, is Cherokee, Woodstock, Holly Springs, Canton going to digital radio. So after decades of scanner pleasure, that is gone. But then, number two, RetroPie, Raspberry Pi. We're looking at trying to make up a Miss Pac-Man machine. So, technologies here and there, but I appreciate it. Net control, sorry I'm out of breath. I ran up to the top of the hill. Hopefully I'm getting out. Thank you. Atlanta 261.
You're getting out just fine, Scott. In fact, your HT sounds as good as most people's bass. So the top of the hill is a great spot for you to work from. And but yeah, the Raspberry Pi, you know, that's just something that it's such a small device, such a small power consumption. They're powered off of a USB charger. And you know, there again, this is a little computer that has more computing horsepower than we had on the Apollo missions. And the capabilities of being able to drive a display and accept analog and digital inputs, and perfect application for a gaming console to run. Shoot, I bet you can run a whole lot more than Miss Pac-Man. I think that's a great idea. I think that could be a lot of fun. When you're finished with that, take good notes, and maybe I'll supply you with some materials to build a second one for use here at the Tiki Bar. What do you think?
Roger that. This is Atlanta 261. But yes, only a couple hundred YouTube videos in the last couple of months. But yes, we can even just plug in the Raspberry and then do RetroPie. And we don't even have to build a cabinet. We can just grab a Xbox controller and then blah, blah, blah. But then that success builds on the success of making a full stand-up arcade machine, which is, I go from one, I still need to get my ham extra, but come on, one thing to another. Thank you, Net Control.
That's cool stuff. And just think of the possibilities with SDR radio and in a Raspberry Pi. So I think that there could be, there should be a way to use that SDR radio to grab that encrypted radio signal, and at some point along the way, somebody's going to figure out the key, or somebody's going to publish the key, and we'll be able to decode these encrypted digital public safety and police channels as they come across. So, you know, the ham operators in Europe figured out how to decode the video from the Falcon 9 rockets as they passed overhead, and were able to capture video images of the fuel tanks inside the rockets, and you could see the fuel moving around inside the tanks. Very cool stuff, especially in the oxygen tank. I never would have imagined that kind of imagery. And apparently there's a reason that SpaceX doesn't want that to be public. I don't know what that is, but maybe there's something proprietary about the way they build their tanks, or the way that they manage that element of fuel. But in any case, that video has now become encrypted, and so those hams are no longer able to do that. So, yeah, I think Raspberry Pis and Arduino and ham radio are all things that can be that can be made to work to achieve very interesting things. And some of the low power communications that are being done in ham radio with some of these digital technologies are really impressive. I should study up on that and get more engaged in that, but I'm having too much fun in GMRS, so I'm just going to stick with what I know. Thank you for that, Scott. Catch your breath and come on down off the hill. You can monitor from the house. Next, we're going to go to Atlanta 104 Lynn in Buford. Lynn, do you have any comments with regard to life-changing technology?
Good evening, Justin from Lynn in Buford, WRKS 722 Atlanta 104. Yeah, you were talking about property appraiser and getting information on your neighbor. I applied for my FCC license for GMRS, and somebody data mined me out, and I went old school, or somebody went old school, and I got a postcard in the mail from the post office informing me of the North Georgia networking system here, and it's interesting. So I went and data mined it out and found about it, and that's how I'm talking on the radio to y'all tonight. Enjoying it a lot. So I hope to get more into this GMRS radio business. But yeah, the GPS. I've done a lot of death by GPS, as my wife and I call it. But I had GPS back in 1994 on my laptop, and that was back before the government they had the error code built into it. So it pretty much gave you an idea where you were. You could be on the ditch or over on another road, but that was about the only toy. She looked at me and says, "I like this one." So yeah, it's a nice convenient tool to use. So I'm going to throw it back to you, Justin, from Atlanta 104.
Yes, indeed, data mining. I do about twice a month. I go to the FCC ULS webpage, and I run a search of GMRS licenses that have an effective change in the last 2-week period, and I collect those names and addresses, and put stickers on postcards and put stamps on them. And in fact, I sent 36 of them out on yesterday, yeah, for the final 2 weeks of May. So I'll be doing that again here in a couple more weeks, and we'll see if that brings anybody else to us. But I'm glad to hear that you received that postcard and learned about our group. And yeah, GPS. Back in my truck driving days. This is quite a while ago, and GPS was a thing then, but it was more of a commercial thing, and it was crazy expensive, and it's just not something that a lot of companies were willing to entertain. But I carried around a desktop computer in my truck back in those days because I couldn't afford a laptop, and it was a Mac. It was a what was that? Quattro. I don't even remember. But I had a GPS receiver dongle that I could put on the outside of the truck, and it built maps as I drove, and I used that. I tried to use that to kind of build a database of directions, but it was a huge amount of work, and it was very kludgy and not very advanced, and it ultimately ended up being an experiment in futility. But nonetheless, a fascinating technology, and I don't believe that the GPS I had any special properties about it. In fact, it was flat out wrong by hundreds of feet very, very often. And I learned that there were things that you could do in terms of placing that device on the vehicle that would affect its accuracy. And so today we have such incredible accuracy out of our phones, it's ridiculous. And I just, it just boggles my mind how far we've come in terms of that GPS accuracy. But yes, data mining and accessing information from the web, that's one of the tools that we've used to grow North Georgia GMRS. And glad that you were able to get one of those postcards and learn more about us. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 313, Jason in Rome. Jason was tough to read at the beginning, but he got a lot better when he came back to us a little bit later. So let's see where Jason's at now. Jason, do you have any comments with regards to life-changing tech? All right. Well, Jason may have gone back inside. I'm not entirely sure, but for now I'm going to show him his in and out of the net, and we'll go ahead and move on to Chattanooga 55. Doug in Chattanooga. Doug is also in and out. I believe Doug has to get up really super early for work. So thanks, Doug, for checking in. Hope you're able to listen in, and I'm going to say good night to you and look forward to hearing from you again. Next we have Atlanta 138, Robert in Auburn. Robert is in and out this evening. Thanks, Robert, for checking in. We have Atlanta 172, Greg in Bremen. Greg is also in and out this evening. Great to hear from you, Greg. Looking forward to talking with you sometime soon. And that brings me next to Atlanta 721, David in Rockmart. David, do you have any comments regarding life-changing tech?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Justin. How are you receiving me?
I've got a good copy on you. A little white noise in there, but your audio is good and strong.
Good deal. I would have to say the LED lights. I'm in construction, and that's changed everything in construction. And I know industry-wise, LEDs have been a big deal, but used to it went from gas station keychain lights to now they are everywhere. I think LEDs have, you just can't say enough about them.
Indeed, LED lighting is something that we've transitioned to here in a pretty large scale. Early on, household LED lights were noisy, electronically noisy. You couldn't hear them, at least I couldn't hear them, but they just made a splash of RF noise in their environment, and they were terrible as far as a radio enthusiast trying to work radios in an environment where LED lighting exists. But today's LED lights are so much better. They're much better filtered. We have a number of LED lights here on the property. Everything on a tiki bar is LED, and it's cool that you can dim them. Some of them will change color. We have an LED light that we've installed on the front porch, and it comes on blue in the evening, and it slowly transitions to a white light later in the night. So that because the blue light is useless in terms of being able to see anything. If you've got a blue light in your front porch light and you try to look out and see if there's something going on in the front yard, you can't see past a couple of feet with that stupid blue light. But with a white light, you can it's good light out into the yard. So I've set mine up so that it will transition from blue to white at around 10 or 11 p.m. I don't remember what time. So that if I have a reason to come out and look at night to see if there's something on the porch or in the yard, I can actually see it. So that's a neat thing. The other thing that's cool about some of these lights, and I've got some light fixtures, some switches that are programmable as well, and they're all connected to the Alexa thing that we have here in the house. So you can just tell. You can just speak the word, and you can have lights in various parts of the house come on or off or dim, or ceiling fans come on or off or speed up or slow down. So that is, it's a space age technology that I can talk to the house, and the house will do things for me. Probably also recording everything that Julie and I say, and I've been willing to bet that there's a big old file at the NSA where they've got recordings of conversations that we've had about all sorts of things that would probably land us in big trouble if they meant anything to anybody. But I don't think they do. So that's one thing, and I tell you that same technology has some frightening implications because I say it jokingly that these devices record us, but it's absolutely the truth. How many times have you had a conversation with someone about a product, and only to find that product show up in your Facebook feed or as an advertisement online, in a Google search, etc. For instance, there was once a conversation that I monitored on the radio, and it was a conversation that Atlanta 123 was having with somebody about a tray that you can put in the front seat of your car, and it was called the stupid seat tray or something like that. And it has like a sort of maybe a beanbag bottom to it, and then it has a flat surface with a non-slip rubber surface on it. So when you put your cell phone and you put whatever it is on that surface, and you're driving around, it won't slide about. It'll stay put. A neat little thing. They're very inexpensive, very handy thing. I haven't bought one, but just that conversation playing over the radio and having an Amazon Echo Dot in the same room where that radio is resulted in those devices showing up in my Facebook feed hours later. So Big Brother is listening. Even if it's not Big Brother, you're being monitored. If you're carrying a cell phone around in your pocket, it doesn't matter if you turn the tracking features off. They're still tracking you. It doesn't matter if you turn, the security features and whatnot. You can turn off whatever you want to. They're still going to monitor. They're still going to listen. They're still going to gather their data and market stuff to you. So that is a life-changing technology that maybe we take a little too much for granted. But yes, LED lighting is a very cool thing, and we have transitioned to many LED lights here. In fact, I've got some early first-generation LED lights that aren't noisy here, and they're still perfectly functional, and I'm considering taking them out because I want to reduce my RF noise floor. And I think I have a good solution for replacing those LED lights with some newer ones that have proven to be less noisy. So good stuff, David. Thanks for bringing that up. Next on my list, we have Atlanta 442, Craig in Ackworth, hanging out with us this evening and monitoring. Craig, I've got you in and out, but appreciate you listening in. And that brings me next to Alabama 20, Josh in Odenville. Josh, are you with us this evening? Do you have any comments with regard to life-changing technology? All right, in and out for Josh. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show Josh as in and out this evening, and I'm going to make a little note here so that if I look for him next week in the log, I might be able to find him. So Alabama 20, Josh from Odenville. I've got you in here as in and out at this point, and we'll look forward to catching up with you hopefully next week. And that brings me next to Atlanta 560, McCoy in Cedartown. McCoy, do you have any comments with regard to life-changing technology? All right, I'm going to show Atlanta 560. McCoy in Cedartown is in and out of the log this evening, so we're going to go ahead and move right along. Next, we have Atlanta 286, Lynn in Murrayville. Lynn had indicated that she was in and out this evening. And also 285, CV in and out by way of relay. So thank you, Lynn and CV, for monitoring this evening. It's great to know you guys are out there listening. That brings me next to Atlanta 699, Mike in Sugar Hill. Mike, do you have any comments for the net with regard to life-changing technology?
Yeah, Justin, are you reading me okay?
Indeed I am. You sound good.
Alrighty. Yeah,
so one of the things that has been a big game changer for me in the past couple of years has been machine learning. So my business requires us to search through massive amounts of data on a daily basis, looking for particular transactions that would be beneficial and meet our criteria. And the team of people that I have working for me used to spend a great deal of their time looking through the data, trying to find those deals, versus actually investing the time and the diligence into making sure that the transaction itself goes smoothly, which is what they're specialized in. That's what they're trained to do. They were doing a lot of data mining, I guess, for lack of a better term, hunting for the particular deals that made sense. And we were able to create an algorithm using a machine learning database that we affectionately called Rob Roy, or we call it Rob Roy, and that hunts thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of code in a matter of hours and looks for the transactions and brings them to the forefront so that my folks can qualify them and we can see if it works. But that has allowed us to, significantly increase the time and the amount of transactions we're able to facilitate, and it helps the folks that are working for me not lose their minds going numb staring at spreadsheets all day, but actually doing what they're good at, which is negotiating. So machine learning has been huge for me since 2019. Over.
Yes. Well, and that brings to light, brings to mind some things that have happened, in the railroad technology. We've had, back in 2008, Congress mandated that the railroad install a technology called PTC, Positive Train Control. And basically what that is a computerized supervisory system that monitors a train and where it is and what its permissive limits are, and if it's operating within the restraints of those permissive limits. So, for instance, if a train has a signal to proceed, the system will know what, not only that signal is at proceed, but what aspect and what permissive limits that train has, and how fast it's permitted to go on its segment of track. If there are any slow orders that have been issued for that track, it'll know, what the distance is to the next signal and whether or not that signal is at stop or at something better. It has so many different parameters that it's constantly looking at, and so the situation where we have a crew on a train that are watching for signals, and they see signal after signal after signal, and their mind just gets numb to what they're looking at, and they see clear signals, and then they see an approach signal, but their mind is telling them that, well, they're supposed to go all the way past this location to another location. So even though it showed an approach, in their mind they'll come on a radio and they'll call that signal clear, and they'll continue to operate as though that were a clear signal, only to come to a stop and not be able to in time. So that is a problem that happened way more than you would believe not that long ago, and that problem has almost been eliminated. So with positive train control, if the crew is operating the train in a manner that's not consistent with the permissive limits that train currently has, the computer will issue a warning. And if they don't respond to that within pretty short order, then the computer will stop the train. And once the train has been stopped under a penalty stop, it can only be restarted when a train master inserts a key. And usually that involves replacing that crew. So the safety factors of these machines is tremendous. Let me break. Excuse me, there, I had a little cough. But one of the side benefits to all of this data that's suddenly available now, we know so many things about the parameters of all of these locomotives that are moving back and forth across these rails, huge amounts of data. So now all of a sudden we know things like engine temperatures and pressures at countless sensor positions on the machine. We know so much more about these machines today than we were ever able to know, because there are so many different ways to monitor them, and all this monitoring is happening in almost real time. And so there's some predictive analysis that's available now, and so they're able to pick up vibrations and determine if they have power units in these big diesel engines. Each cylinder is what they call a power unit, and that cylinder can be removed from the engine and replaced in about an hour. I mean, it's not a lot of labor to do that. So when a power unit starts to have issues, that power unit can be identified and replaced before it takes the whole unit down. And there are other maintenance issues, preventative maintenance issues, that they've been able to find trends for using things like you'd mentioned, machine learning. And so that's been really interesting to see how locomotive reliability has been improved through positive train control. It's an unexpected and unintended consequence of this technology that's been a huge benefit, and not quite enough to pay for the cost of PTC, but it's been a neat thing to see that we are at least getting something more out of it than spending billions of dollars to stop a train. So and stopping a train it's a big deal. They really need to stop when they're supposed to, despite the state of there's a condition they call that when you're looking at something and you see it over and over again, and then it changes, but your mind doesn't recognize or acknowledge that change. It's a syndrome. I can't remember what it's called, but our train crews suffer from that, and many people would. It's hard not to. As a truck driver over the road, I can tell you there are times when my mind would go off on a tangent, and I would put a bunch of miles down and not quite realize, holy crap, where have I been? One of the many reasons I decided to get off the road. But yeah, that's fascinating stuff. So thanks, Mike, for chiming in with that machine learning and data mining and applications in financial transactions. That's cool stuff. Let's go ahead and jump on over to Atlanta 698 and see if Beth has any comments for life-changing technology. Beth, are you hanging out with us?
Beth had to run, but she wanted me to say that vacuum sealing, being able to vacuum seal things, has been a game changer, not just for food, but for all kinds of stuff. She uses the heck out of the vacuum sealer that she has. She's had it for, I think, 5 years or whatever, but she wanted me to bring out that vacuum sealing has been a life-changing technology.
Ah, yes. And I can imagine that to be true. My brother and I purchased a beef last year, and we had never done that before. And so I really didn't have a concept of how much meat that is. Fortunately, this meat was packaged in a way that we were able to just throw it in a freezer. We didn't have to do anything like vacuum packing it. But Atlanta 911 sometimes purchases restaurant-sized boxes of meats, chicken in particular. And on one occasion, she purchased about 120 pounds of meat that we kind of split with her. I think it was split about 3 different ways. But so she came over with her vacuum packing machine, and we went through and vacuum packed 120 pounds of chicken one evening. And very cool thing. What 947 and I have learned is that we can eat the chicken fast enough that we don't have to vacuum pack it. We can put it in Ziplocs and have it consumed before there's an opportunity for freezer burn or any of those kind of things. But vacuum packing definitely extends the amount of time you can have that food in the freezer. So definitely that's a worthwhile comment there. I'm going to back up just a bit here in the log and move on to Atlanta 292, who is actually behind Mike in Rockmart. Derek is in and out this evening. But thank you, Derek, for checking in. Appreciate that, and it's good to know you're out there hanging out with us. Also in and out, we have Atlanta 76, David in Duluth, Thank you, David, for checking in and out with us this evening. It's great to hear from you. And we have Atlanta 93, Brian in Marietta, in and out this evening. Thanks, Brian, for checking in. I'm curious if this is the Brian in Marietta that was having issues getting to Flagship, because your signal sounded great. I didn't notice. Maybe you were on Zello, and that's why you sounded great. But if that was an RF contact, Brian, you're doing just fine. Of course, next on my list is Atlanta 698, but Beth had to run, but her comment was about vacuum sealing, so we'll thank you for that, Beth. Hope that if you're not able to listen, that maybe you can catch the replay. And that brings me next to Atlanta 191, Jerry in Buford. Jerry, do you have any comments with regard to life-changing technology? And, well, that's it. What are your comments? He may have been in and out. Had a tough time hearing him. Atlanta 191, Jerry in Buford. Are you still with us? As I recall, we had a tough time hearing you. Did you check in and out and I just missed that? All right, I'm going to go ahead and show Jerry as in and out, and if he decides to jump in here later, we'll definitely take his comments. It brings me to the last entry in my log, is Atlanta 948. Gary, here in Woodstock, had a nice meal with Gary and several other friends last night, and very much enjoyed spending time with him. Gary is in and out with us this evening, as he often is. So that is the end of our list. So at this time, Net Control will open up the floor, and we'll take any comments or questions and any late check-ins. Net Control standing by. Yeah, all right. When I let off the key, I heard somebody in there, so I assumed that I was stepping on them. Last station, please come back with your traffic.
Atlanta 73, Ed in Lawrenceville.
Okay, Net Control acknowledging Atlanta 7-3, Ed in Lawrenceville. Do we have any other late check-ins? Call Net Control now.
Atlanta 710,
All right, I heard Atlanta 710. It was a tough copy, but I show that as being Tim in Canton. Is that correct? All right, Atlanta 7-3, Ed in Lawrenceville, and Atlanta 710, Tim in Canton. Do we have any other late check-ins? Please call Net Control now. All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and go back to Atlanta 7-3, Ed in Lawrenceville. Ed, do you have any comments with regard to life-changing technology?
Well, I would have, but I just pulled into my driveway, so I will be in and out.
All right, Ed. We'll go ahead and show you in the log as in and out. Would love to hear your comments if you had a minute, but that's okay. I'm not going to keep you. We'll go ahead and move on next to Atlanta 710, Tim in Canton. Tim, see if you can speak nice and loud into that microphone and modulate through the noise, and tell us about your ideas for life-changing technology.
Yeah, Justin, thank you. I just wanted to bring up life-changing technology. Amazon Sidewalk, if anyone is aware of this product that may be enabled or will be enabled this week by default on your Ring devices, Amazon Alexa, Echo Dot devices. I would highly recommend everyone look into that if you have these devices.
Yes, and that is an excellent point, Tim, and I appreciate you bringing that up. For those that don't know, Amazon Sidewalk is a technology that basically opens up your home's Wi-Fi to virtually anybody who happens to be walking by. Now, the purpose is to improve connectivity for Amazon vehicles and Amazon equipment. So if you have Sidewalk enabled and an Amazon truck drives by, that Amazon truck is able to use your data to pass data back and forth to Amazon. And not only that, but it also allows other Amazon customers to be able to access your network to remain connected via Wi-Fi as they move about through your neighborhood. So it could be people driving by in vehicles, it could be people walking by with their cell phones. In any case, it is very likely a back door for people to access your internet and bypass your username, your SSID, and your location passwords. So I think it's a serious breach of security, and it's being done in a way that a lot of people don't realize. So as Tim had indicated, if you have Amazon Echo, Amazon Dot, if you have the Ring devices from Amazon, if you have any Amazon products in your home, I don't know that maybe even the Fire Sticks might even have that capability. Anything that's got Wi-Fi is going to be able to do that. So take a look at your Amazon devices, and if you can find the Sidewalk setting, you definitely want to disable it, because I think that that's a serious security problem. But Amazon thinks that it's going to be the next big thing. Any other ideas or comments that you'd like to make, Tim?
No, that was about it. I'm in the IT field and security, global enterprise security, so I've been doing a lot of research on this stuff, and highly recommend everyone look into it and disable that feature. It is disableable, but it is enabled by default, live June 6th or 8th, if I'm not mistaken. So, other than that, no, I'm good. So, just wanted to chime in about that. Everyone have a good evening. Great to chime in and chit-chat tonight. I typically connect through Pine Log, but was able to get through to Sassafras tonight. So, good talking.
Excellent. Well, we're glad to hear you on the flagship machine, and yeah, you're making it in there just fine, so that's going to work for you. In the Canton area, flagship should work out for most people there. It's a shame that we've lost the Pine Log site, but there's a number of things that kind of came to head there, and we expected to have to vacate that location anyway. That location has been sold, and we had an excellent relationship with the prior owner, but the new owner has historically been tough to work with radio clubs. And so when we learned that location had been sold, we felt like we needed to start looking at a plan to relocate. And so a number of things kind of happened this year, and we not only found a location, we found several, and we're continuing to find additional locations. It seems like folks are identifying potential sites and bringing them to our attention, and many of these sites that are being brought to light are good sites for us. So we're off the air at Pine Log. We actually didn't intend to decommission Pine Log this early. We wanted to and would have remained on Pine Log until we were asked to leave. But because we had some equipment damage up there, that was one of the things that made that decision. The other thing that came into play is that the link site that we use to link Pine Log into the rest of the network, that's at a resident nearby here in Woodstock, and she wants to sell her place, and in this market, who can blame her? She's getting married soon. She's going to be moving in with her fiance. He has a fantastic place. we've already inquired as to using his address for a link site. He would prefer that we not, so we're going to lose that opportunity altogether. But his site isn't as good as hers was. So the fact that we've lost access to the host or the link site for PineLog, and that we had the damage at PineLog, and all of these things pointed to, we just really need to go ahead and decommission PineLog, which made that frequency pair available for Blue Ridge, which makes a lot better sense for us to use that frequency pair at Blue Ridge, and we have very high hopes and expectations for Blue Ridge when we're able to get that linked here, hopefully very soon. So that's in a nutshell. It breaks my heart just a little bit. PineLog has been my go-to site. We can hit PineLog walking around the property with HTs from here, but no more. So I can hit flagship with an HT sometimes, but not nearly as reliably as I was able to hit PineLog. So that's a little bit of a disappointment, but it's not the end of the world, and we have many other sites that we intend to bring online just as fast as we can. These things don't happen overnight. It requires, like at Flagship, we have a tower day planned very soon, and we're having difficulty with weather. So if the weather doesn't cooperate, that's going to push us back even further. The complicated thing about these tower work days is that we're coordinating multiple people's schedules. And so everybody that's involved in this work has to have availability at the same time on a day with good weather. And so that's the challenge that we face, is getting all the various people that need to be on site to have availability in their schedule at the same time, because we're all volunteers here. So that's that in a nutshell. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and take another break and see if we have any additional late check-ins, or if anyone has any other questions or comments. Net control standing by.
This is?
Date night.
This is Atlanta 295 and Atlanta 296, WRFN 658, doing the check-in, check-out, Justin.
All right, Atlanta 295 and Atlanta 296. Scott and Debbie in Dallas checking in and out this evening. I hope that you had a fantastic date night, and looking forward to...
And another thing that's more motorcycle related to me is these in-helmet Bluetooth devices that you can use as like an intercom between riders, and stream music, from your devices while you're riding, get turn-by-turn directions from your GPS. It's been a game changer on my big group rides I do, just for situational awareness alone, not to count all that other stuff. But being able to commute, hazards in the road, or if you're towards the back, to let the lead guy know, hey, you got a fast mover coming up on the right, whatever the case may be. That's been kind of a game changer for me. Back to net control.
Yes, and I've been hearing more and more of those helmet microphone radios with different traveling groups, motorcycle groups and others. I guess they're not necessarily helmets when they're in cars, but we typically, when we go on road trips, I will scan on my radio, and my radio will scan all the FRS channels too. We don't talk on them, but we do listen on them. And it's fun sometimes to pick up on those groups as they chatter and hear some of the things that they're talking about. And the language is very often very colorful, not necessarily suitable for North Georgia GMRS, but it's their playground, and it's their I'm not going to enforce FCC rules. I'm not the police. So, but nonetheless, it's fun to hear those conversations when those groups come by. I hear it a lot in 2 and 3 and 4 car groups, or sometimes you'll see groups of Jeeps that are traveling together, and you can hear them chatter quite often. But I recall back in when was this? This was 12, 13, 14 years ago. A buddy of mine had purchased an airplane and had a pilot's license, and he needed hours, and so he'd say, hey, let's go fly. And so I'd drive about an hour to where the hangar was, and we'd dust that old airplane off and fuel it, and go through and inspect everything, and then go through and inspect it again, because he was new and afraid he'd missed something. And so we would spend, I don't know, 45 minutes tinkering with that thing before we ever thought about turning it on. But we would go ahead and get in the airplane and take a fly around for an hour, sometimes two, and daytime, nighttime, all kinds of stuff. And very cool, very fun thing to do. But the headphones, the aviation headphones that we used back in those days were crazy, crazy expensive, and they sounded terrible. And I still have a pair of them around. They're hanging up in that closet right there. I burned up the microphone element in it, trying to make it work for North Georgia GMRS. Just a completely different animal in terms of audio. They're condenser microphones, and so anyway, they sounded terrible. And I think part of it is because they're just the way they're made. These are very much like aviation headsets that I'm wearing now, these Heil Pro 7s, and much better components in them, and much better quality of sound in them, both in the microphone and in the headsets. I think that these headphones are key to me being able to hear some of those marginal signals. Didn't work for me very well tonight, but that's probably more me than the headphones. But that's one thing that I took note of, was how expensive the like a 2-place or a 4-place intercom. If you wanted to use that on a motorcycle, and the aviation style headsets on a bike, my golly, it's just too much money to consider. But now they have these FRS headsets and radio packs that you can use like an intercom, and they're so much more affordable. I mean, under $100 in a lot of cases. So that's kind of a neat thing. But good point. Yeah, I'm surprised nobody brought that up either. And the robot vacuum, I got to tell a little story. I bought the EchoVax M80 robot vacuum in 2017. It was $130, I think. It was very affordable compared to everything else that was out there at the time. And we loved it. It was great. It would come on and it would do its thing, and when it got to the place where it was tired, it would go back and find its charger, and it would go back and charge. And all you had to do was once a day go through and empty the little bin, and by little I mean it was a little bin, and it would be chock full of dog hair and other dirt. It did a good job for what it was. But my son was so irritated and aggravated by it that he would sabotage that thing, and I would come home sometimes to find it had been turned upside down on purpose to make it stop. And one of those choices that you have to make, is it worth the battle, you know? So I just decommissioned the device. I pulled the battery out of it, and I set it on a shelf. And well, he's gone now. He's moved out, and I thought, let's get that thing out and let's put it back into play. The battery is toast. It won't hold a charge, but for about 2 minutes. So it'll come out. It'll try to vacuum. It'll make a bunch of noise, and then it tries to put itself away, and usually dies in the process. So I've ordered a battery for it, and I'm hoping that I can get that thing back into play very soon. So if you don't have one of those robotic vacuums, you should get one. It doesn't eliminate the need to vacuum, but it instead of having to vacuum every 2 or 3 days, if you've got dogs, you have to vacuum every 2 or 3 days. But with that machine operating, now you can maybe go once a week and do a little touch-up vacuuming here and there, because the machine doesn't necessarily get everything. It's terrible around the tables and chairs and around furniture and stuff. So you still have to do those things by hand. But the robot vacuum is great. I love ours, and I'm anxious to get the battery and get it back into play. I noticed that when I was because I was thinking about just buying another vacuum. It's almost doubled in price for that same model. So I don't know if they've made improvements to the model or if that's just what the market has done. But it's a very interesting observation. So the robot vacuums are indeed a cool thing. Let's go ahead and take another standby for any additional comments, questions, or late check-ins. Net Control standing by.
Hi, Justin. Todd, coming, Atlanta 402. Wanted to chime in about your conversation about the robotic vacuums. I bought one of those. We mostly have a hardwood main level, and it absolutely is fantastic. Bought it about 3 years ago. I believe it was from BJ's. And actually, with the little flipper wipes on the edges, it does great around the tables and around the tables that we have, the coffee tables and whatnot. The big caveat is, even though I have a remote app, I can't do it because he has a big dog and he has a toy bin and he brings all that out. So when I run it, I have to pick all his stuff up. But it does great, and it's been a life changer. Like you said, it doesn't take the place of regular cleaning, but it certainly gets up a lot of that dog hair.
Oh yeah, when we had the German Shepherd, we used to get these tumbleweeds of hair that you would catch rolling across the floor in a gentle breeze, and we vacuum literally every other day when we had that dog. We had to, because that stuff accumulated so rapidly. And nonetheless, even with all of that vacuuming, and we've both kind of come to the place where we just hate it now. With all of that vacuuming, we would still get those tumbleweeds of dog hair. He's passed away, and so the shedding dog situation has improved tremendously, but we're still having to vacuum a couple times a week, and we're hoping that once I get this machine back in service, that we can cut that back to just vacuuming on the weekend. So that's what we'd like to get back to, and I think that we can. But yeah, it is a labor-saving device if it's respected, and that would be a condition. If my son wanted to move back in, we're not going to worry about the robot vacuum. His task is going to be to vacuum every other day, or you're not moving in. We'll see how that plays. Hopefully he won't be moving back in. I think he's pretty well settled in life and his career now, so he's in pretty good shape. But great, I appreciate your comments there, Todd, and love the robot vacuum. Any other comments or questions for the net? Any late check-ins? Net Control standing by. All right, I think this is an excellent place to put a pin in this particular subject. And so this will conclude the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Tonight we had a total of 38 check-ins, including myself. Net Control will now be returning the repeaters to normal use. Everyone who signed in should sign out. Thank you for allowing me to serve as your Net Control this evening. Good night, everyone. This is Atlanta 946, WQIR 514. And I'm clear. Okay, YouTube folks. We had some issues along the way, and we had a lockup at one point. So not sure what that was about, but I'm glad you hung out with me, and looking forward to looking at the numbers and seeing how we did tonight, and looking forward to hearing from all of you again very soon. This is Justin, Atlanta 946.
Thanks, Donna 22, WRCO 952. Good night, everyone.
And I'll be clear. Good night, everyone. Oops, the wrong button. There we go. Let's try this one.